नमस्कार, स्वागत है आपका स्वराज एक्सप्रेस के खास कार्यक्रम ऑन रिकॉर्ड में। इस प्रोग्राम के जरिए हम आपकी मुलाकात करवाते हैं देश के बड़े न्यूज़ मेकर्स के साथ। इस हफ्ते हमारे साथ हैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट के पूर्व जज जस्टिस मदन बी लुकुर। आई वेलकम यू ऑन द प्रोग्राम।
Yeah, thank you.
My first question to you, Justice Lokur, is that the recent nomination of Justice Ranjan Gogoi to Rajya Sabha, do you feel in any way that this is a watershed moment for the Indian judiciary?
It's not a watershed moment in the sense that previously also judges of the Supreme Court have been members of the Rajya Sabha, but this is the first time that a judge has been nominated to the Rajya Sabha. So in that sense, it's a watershed.
But do you see this as some kind of a recognition for an eminent jurist?
Well, there have been eminent jurists in the past who have been nominated to the Rajya Sabha, but like I said, it's the first time that a judge has been nominated. I mean, I would assume that all judges are eminent jurists, so
all these allegations, or rather charges, which are there in the eyes of the public, that there's some kind of a quid pro quo, and it's like a reward which he has got from the government. What would you have to say to that?
I don't think I would agree with the quid pro quo argument, because what is being said is that he gave certain judgments that were favorable to the present government. Now, it's not that he alone gave the judgment, there were other judges along with him. So, if there was a quid pro quo, it would mean that so many other judges were also involved, and that's very difficult to appreciate, that judges would have given a judgment in favor of the government only because they wanted to help a particular judge. I don't buy that argument.
So you don't see this as some kind of a cross example where the government has rewarded him in any way, as what the perception was?
Well, the perception certainly is that he has been helpful to the government. I mean, that's the perception, and therefore, the perception is that he has been rewarded for it. But to say that judgments were influenced, maybe his particular judgment may have been influenced, but that doesn't mean that the judgment of everybody else has also been influenced.
Because there was not any dissent note, if for example, if you look at the Ayodhya title dispute case, it was a unanimous judgment, and of course Mr. Gogoi also has said that quid pro quo charge is totally baseless, because if that is the thing, then you can ask other judges also, and they did not have a dissent note. So my question to you is that in the eyes of the public, how does the image of the judiciary really stand now? If what the explanation you are giving, that there were other judges as well. So how do we look at the entire institution of judiciary in the light of what has happened?
Yes, you see, it's a culmination of several things that have happened, over the last couple of years, and that has ended, well, for the time being at least, in the nomination. So therefore, the public perception has been building up over the last 1 or 2 years, and therefore the public perception is that, and this is like a trigger, the public perception is that the judiciary is well, not being 100% impartial, and there is a feeling that confidence and trust in the judiciary is getting eroded.
So you say that somewhere the independence of the judiciary is compromised with this decision of Justice Gogoi?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that the independence is compromised. Nor would I attribute it to the nomination of Justice Gogoi. But things are not going as they should. Let's put it that way.
So how should the things go? When you say that the things are not going the way they should, where do you actually stop? Where does the buck stop?
Well, But the buck will stop, of course, with the Supreme Court. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But you see, the strength of the judiciary lies in its acceptance by the public. The public must have confidence that when they go to the court, they are going to get a fair decision, they are going to get an impartial decision, right? They must have that confidence, they must have that trust in the judges. But if that confidence begins to wane, or if that trust begins to wane, then there is a problem. And I believe that over the last 1 or 2 years, that trust and that confidence has begun to wane a little bit.
But if the latest trigger factor I ask you on, obviously Justice Gogoi's nomination to Rajya Sabha, now that he has sworn in also, do you see this last bastion crumbling anywhere, or if I could say the last bastion has fallen?
Yeah, it's shaking.
It's shaking.
It's shaking, yeah.
And which is not a good sign.
Which is not a good sign, yeah.
If you read about Justice Gogoi's interview to the TV channels after he swore in yesterday, he says that he doesn't see this as a compromise with the independence of the judiciary. How much of that explanation really cuts ice with you?
Like I said, it's difficult to say that it's a compromise, because it's a culmination of a series of events. Now, if it's a compromise and it's a one-to-one kind of compromise, that's something different. I don't know. But if it's a compromise of the institution, I don't agree. Because you can't say that all judges have been compromised. You can't say that.
But if I were to ask you very honestly, are you delighted? Are you disappointed with Justice Gogoi joining Rajya Sabha? What's your personal opinion on this?
Well, my personal opinion is I'm a little disappointed. Yes, I am. Yeah.
Why?
I wouldn't, speaking for myself, I wouldn't accept something like this. Because again, if you look at the events that have transpired, and the circumstances, it sends out a sort of a signal that all is not well.
What are those events, if I could ask you and if you want to share with us?
Yeah, sure.
The larger issues around the judiciary about which you are really disappointed and you did not expect it.
Yeah, well, it began, I think, with events that occurred in January, February, March, which I think were not handled properly. For example, a decision that was taken by the collegium recommending some judges for appointment to the Supreme Court, that was recalled. Then you had the manner in which the allegation of sexual harassment was handled. So
and
these
it was
things,
brushed aside.
I don't know whether it was brushed aside, but I don't think it was handled correctly. So these kind of things which started happening, have led to some disappointment.
Now this, entry of Justice Gogoi to Rajya Sabha and he accepting the offer right after 4 months of his retirement has also rekindled the debate around the cooling off period, whether at all there should be a cooling off period for the judges to accept any political offer like this or not. Is the institution really serious about something like a cooling off period for the judges?
Which institution?
The Supreme Court, the political offer made to the judges.
Well, you see, there are two things. Parliament has enacted laws, right, which say that certain positions have to be filled up by retired judges. You have the National Green Tribunal, you have the National Commission for Consumer Redressal, you have the Central Administrative Tribunal, so you have many of them.
Right.
Now, when Parliament framed these laws or enacted these laws, they did not say that there should be a cooling off period. They have not said that a person who is retired 2 years ago is eligible, right? So, if an offer of this nature is made to to a judge, there is no cooling off period.
Right.
All right. Now, you have this has got nothing to do with politics. All right. Unless you look at something else. You suddenly decide that you're going to have some body which is constituted, and you want a retired judge for that, so that you can do a favor to him. That becomes a problem.
No, but when you talk about the code of ethics, like it's there for the bureaucrats that till a certain time they're not going to accept any position. But for the judges, how does it operate?
There is no code of ethics in this.
Okay.
There is no code of ethics in this. Maybe the judges will have to think about it at some point of time.
The 14th Law Commission report, which was actually never implemented, it did talk about things like whether the judges should accept a political offer like this or not. And because it somewhere compromises the independence, as what you have said. And so is the government really going to be serious around these issues, given the fact that report came decades back and it's still not been implemented at all?
I don't know what the government is going to do about it. But you see, you have something called political neutrality, which has been accepted in the Bangalore principles on judicial ethics. So, a sitting judge, for example, can become the chancellor of a university.
Okay.
Right? Because that has got nothing to do with politics, as long as it does not interfere with the judicial work. You have sitting judges who have been appointed as chairpersons of a commission. You had the Verma Commission of Inquiry on the assassination of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. Again, nothing to do with politics. So, if the position is politically neutral, there is no problem.
But if you talk about Justice Gogoi's nomination to Rajya Sabha, as what he has said, he has said that in the bar, we are taught that we don't refuse when we get the offer for a judgeship. We don't refuse that. And he is in a way equated that with this offer which he has accepted, and he said that the president offered me the position and I couldn't have ever refused it. If in the realm of the light of the political neutrality you're talking about, does it really cut eyes?
I'm not sure whether he said that.
He said this.
No, what he said, as far as I remember, is that somebody came to him a week or 10 days ago and made that offer.
Right.
Right? So, it's not as if the president came to him and told him that, listen, I'm making this offer.
No, I mean, he must have got some kind of a missive from the president.
Yeah, maybe. But to equate it with appointment of a judge is different, because when you are talking about the appointment of a judge, it's the Chief Justice of the High Court who makes that offer. He doesn't send somebody.
Okay.
So, there is a difference in that, So, that comparison I don't think is apposite.
Justice Lokur, this entire thing about how Justice Gogoi has said that Rajya Sabha seat for him, or rather the Rajya Sabha berth for him, is not a lucrative post, as what he makes it out, and that he's not interested in becoming the minister, as what we were discussing. How much of this explanation which he has given is really credible in your eyes as well as the eyes of the people?
Yeah, well, it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Now, if you go back, he said that if the president, made this offer, I can't refuse it.
Right.
Tomorrow, supposing the president says that, I would like you to become a minister, will he say no? I refuse, because I said on in an interview or something, wherever, I don't know where he said it, I will not accept it.
But if I were to ask you a generalized thing, or maybe if I were to ask you to give me a template for all the judges who are retiring from the post, should they be accepting an offer like this, a political offer? You said it's fair to go and be a part of the commission or head some kind of a tribunal, but not a political post.
Politically neutral, something which is politically neutral is okay.
Right.
But something which is not politically neutral, I think is not okay.
But when Justice Gogoi says, and he said this in his press conference which he did at Assam, and then now again he's given an interview where he says that, you know, judiciary and the executive, they have to come together at some point of time, which is totally against what is written in the constitution, because the constitutional edifice talks about a separation of powers of as far as judiciary and the executive is concerned. But he says that both these institutions can't be at loggerheads, as was Justice Gogoi says.
Well, I don't know what he means by that actually. If the executive does something wrong, the judiciary is there to correct it. You know, I mean, if you call that loggerheads, well, so be it, you know. But that doesn't mean that, you know, the judiciary and the executive are picking up a fight on a daily basis. There's nothing like that. I mean, the executive takes a decision, somebody is not happy with that decision, comes to the court, and the court says, well,
but then again, this entire thing, you know, boils down to a perception that, you know, somewhere judiciary and the executive are conniving or maybe joining hands. Then again, the fate of the people gets shaken. Yeah, it can happen. It can happen, you know. Take an example where it appears on the face of it that what the executive has done is wrong, and the judiciary says no, it's perfectly okay. Well, there are sections of the public who will say what's going on, you know, and you can't stop it. Again, it's a matter of perception. Like Justice Arun Mishra recently, while he presided over the International Judicial Conference 2020, and he made a lavish praise about the Prime Minister, and then somewhere it didn't go down very well, that, you know, as if the judiciary is prostrating before the political executive. What would you have to say to that?
Well, I don't think he should have said that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there are larger issues, you know, around the way Supreme Court and maybe the Delhi High Court has functioned in the last 3-4 months, especially since the time of the abrogation of Article 370. There is a feeling that the courts are not very robustly taking up the issue of fundamental rights. What have you observed?
Well,
or rather, what is your observation?
Yeah, my observation is this, that yes, I think the courts should have been far more proactive than they have been.
Okay.
On the issue of fundamental rights and on the issue of personal liberty, right? And yes, I am disappointed that the courts have not, you know, taken it up so seriously as they should have.
But if you talk to the legal activists, they have been saying that it's very, very clear that, you know, the judges are under some kind of a political pressure, as if there's some kind of a pressure which is being exerted on the judges, and out of fear, they are not able to discharge their duties with full freedom.
Well, if the judges are under some kind of pressure or they are afraid, it's terrible. Whether this is true or not true, I don't know. But the judges take an oath that they will dispense justice without fear or favor. So if they are afraid, well, we are in trouble.
The institution of judiciary, it seems, is just untouchable. And when I say untouchable, obviously, if the media says anything against the judiciary, media is hauled up that, oh, look, how could you speak a thing like this against the judges? So how does one really come out with the truth as to what has happened, if the judge is compromised or if not compromised? How do you really bring out the truth? And so many cases are like that.
Can you give me one or two of such cases where the media has been hauled up?
No, as in like a contempt proceeding, you know, maybe.
Not against the media. I can't.
There's a Lakshman Rekha which comes in that, you know, you can't say a thing like this against the judges.
Well,
or you can't comment on their judgment.
No, of course you can. Academics do it on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
You know, legal scholars do it on a day-to-day basis. Of course you can comment about a judgment. But you can't comment about a judge. I mean, you can't get personal. You know. So, and that's right. I don't think you should get personal. I don't think anybody should get personal for that matter.
Right.
But yeah, if there is some institutional, you know, changes that are required, or if there's a criticism of a judgment, that's perfectly okay. That's not contempt.
Another very disturbing thing which we saw during the Delhi riots was that we saw the overnight transfer of Justice Muralidharan.
Yeah.
And which the government said that it is a routine transfer, and if you see the language of the transfer order, that also was not very routine, it didn't look very routine. But the law minister said that no, it's just a routine transfer, and media is making a mountain out of a molehill. What is your assessment on that?
Well, it's like this, the language was different. You know, normally when a transfer takes place, a judge is given time, and there is a reason why the judge is given time, because he may have heard some case.
Right.
He or she may have heard some case, and judgment has to be delivered, right? If the judgment is not delivered and the judge is transferred out, then the case will have to be argued all over again, which means a financial burden on the litigant, because he will have to pay the lawyers for that.
Right.
Right. So that's why time is given, so that whatever work is pending with the judge, whether it's a judgment or some other administrative work or whatever, the judge can finish that. So that's why time is given. But in this particular case, there was no time given, which effectively made the judge non-functional from the very next day.
Do you feel that the reason for this overnight transfer was because he took a very strong objection about the way the police was functioning, the government was functioning?
Yes, it does appear to be so. It does appear to be so. It's like this. It is correct that the transfer was recommended, I think, around the 12th of February or something.
Right.
Right.
A week before almost.
Yeah, but two weeks before his
before
his transfer. So that is correct, and in the normal course it would have been processed, but to give it at 11 o'clock at night or 10:30 or 11:30 or something is very, very odd, without giving time, right? So if you put 2 and 2 together, you don't need to be a chartered accountant to know what the answer is.
2018 press conference, which was held by you and your colleague judges, all of them, you had cited a number of issues, like the sensitive cases being given out to the junior judges, and the roster and everything was being questioned around that time, when Justice Deepak Mishra was the Chief Justice of India. 2 years down the line, do you feel that those issues have got resolved, or the situation is far worse than what you had left?
The issues that we had raised at that point of time, with regard to the management of the roster, I think they've got resolved.
Okay.
There was a perceptible change after that, and I don't think there has been any such instance, at least that I can recall after that, where senior judges have been bypassed.
But as far as other issues which are plaguing the judiciary, where do you think is the real challenge which needs to be addressed if you really have to save the democracy right now?
Well, there are many issues that are plaguing the judiciary. One is the millions of cases that are pending, the delays. Those are endemic, right? So I think the judiciary needs to actually sit down, do some brainstorming, introspect. These are some, which all of us talk about, delays and pendency and so on and so forth. But there are other also, transfer of judges, right? Even of the district judges. I think the judiciary needs to sit down and introspect and see how to improve the system. But
there is a suspicion whether judiciary will do this or not, because if you talk about the district courts and the lower courts, they seem to be, there is a perception again that they look compromised. But the high courts and the Supreme Courts were always considered above any kind of suspicion. But when instances like the offer made to Justice Gogoi has happened, it again brings us back to the question whether at all there will be an honest introspection at all by the judges of the Supreme Court.
No, why not? Why not?
And when this feeling that
you see,
there's some kind of a political pressure always being exerted on them.
Yeah, you see, from your line of questioning, everything is centered around that nomination. Okay, like I said, that nomination is just
because that's the latest trigger.
Correct, but that's only one.
Right.
That's only one incident.
Right.
Okay, it's something which has been building up over a couple of years. Okay, and it does not have to do anything with one person. So it's an institutional response that has to be given.
Right.
Right. Now, you can't say the entire judiciary in India is compromised. Nobody can say that. And if you can't say that, then certainly this entire judiciary, or at least the chief justices, can sit down and brainstorm. Why not? What's wrong with it?
Everything looks lost right now as far as the judiciary is concerned, and especially after this episode. And over the months, like, people have been talking about how the high courts are not taking up the cases the way they should have been. The Supreme Court is not taking up the cases the way it should have been. I'm not singling out any particular judge A, B or C, but with this nomination to Rajya Sabha of Justice Gogoi, it is almost like it's shaken the faith of the people, it's shaken the faith of the Aam Aadmi. People used to say कि न्यायपालिका में हमारा अल्टीमेट विश्वास है, कुछ भी हो जाए न्यायपालिका से हमें न्याय मिलेगा. But that kind of feeling is completely lost now. How do you retrieve that feeling that, look, the courts are there for you if anything goes wrong?
Yeah, that's why I said that the strength of the judiciary depends upon public confidence, public trust. The judiciary has to build up that public confidence and that public trust. And that is possible only if they sit down and introspect and try to find out why is it that we are losing this public confidence and public trust, or why is it waning. It's not yet lost.
Okay.
But why is it waning?
Okay, so I'll correct myself as what you said, that it's waning, but when that honest introspection is going to happen, that remains $1 million question.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Justice Lokur.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank you.
तो ऑन रिकॉर्ड में इस हफ्ते इतना ही. अगले हफ्ते फिर से मुलाकात होगी किसी और शख्सियत के साथ. नमस्कार.